from the church after a marathon all-night service. He was so filled in the spirit and was singing gospel songs to express his mood. He never knew he was about to discover the den, or should I say, the hideout of the only Nigerian known cannibal, a discovery that would later on change the course of history. This is the story of how one man, Joseph Bello, exposed Clifford Orji, a human eater who would pose as a madman and sometimes a razor blade seller to lure his victim. After watching this video, you will naturally ask yourself 3 questions. So before we continue, if you like true, strange and mysterious stories that send chills down your spine, you are in the right place. That's what we do. So the next time you go shopping at the mall and the like button comes to you, just give it a thumb up. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on notification so that you don't miss our next videos. Clifford Orji is the first documented Nigerian cannibal who was arrested in 1999 for serial killing, kidnapping, and the sale of human body parts. He died on the 12th of August 2012 after spending 13 years in Kirikiri, Nigeria Super Maximum Penitentiary without a trial. Before Clifford Orji was exposed and arrested for human eating and sales of body parts, people knew him as a razor blade seller who hailed from Enugu. He later abandoned trade and proclaimed himself a witch doctor, and when he started being a witch doctor, he discouraged people from coming to where he was living under the Oshodi Isolo Bridge in Lagos State. Oh, I forgot to mention, Clifford Orji was homeless, so he had always lived under the bridge. So, once in a while, he would feign temporary madness just to scare people away from entering his den that was under the Oshodi Isolo flyover in Lagos. Many people believe that Clifford Orji had been eating and selling human parts before he was caught, but nobody knew how long. A particular lady on YouTube named Gozi Afrik recounted her near-death experience with Clifford Orji. In her words, "The truth is, God saved me from him when I was on my way from secondary school. Mommy's drivers didn't come on time, so I followed my friends and they dropped me at Oshodi. I started trekking, only for Clifford Orji to throw a tire and I ran. He chased me, but the people there shouted, 'Run, God! I thank you for life.'" This was actually Clifford Orji's mode of operation. During the day, he would chase strangers wandering around the Oshodi Isolo underbridge. He was doing this to discourage them from entering his conclave. But during the night, Clifford Orji usually filled the air with a meat-like odor of special barbecue. People didn't suspect that this barbecue-loving recluse madman had more going on in his conclave under the bridge than the eyes can see. But nobody was ready for the shocking discovery of Joseph Bello that Clifford Orji is not just a madman. He was also a serial killer, a kidnapper, a human eater, and body parts dealer. It was a few moments before dawn on Wednesday 3rd of February 1999. Joseph Bello was returning from church after a marathon all-night service. He was in the spirit and was singing different gospel songs to uplift his soul. Just then, he heard a shrill cry of a lady. He was surprised and asked himself, what would a lady be doing under the bridge at this early hour of the morning? He wanted to ignore the voice and focus on his journey back home when he heard another voice. But this time, it was an ear-piercing cry of a lady. He was curious and wanted to know what was happening there. He walked towards under the flyover where he heard the noise of the woman. So he kept walking under the bridge to know what was happening. At this point, Joseph Bello had a million questions going through his head. He wanted to know why a woman would be crying in a madman's conclave. At that time, as he walked under the bridge, he perceived a burnish smell of a roasted meat. But he kept on going. What he saw next sent shockwave throughout his body. He saw a well-kitted kitchen where a human limb is being roasted on the fire. He was disgusted and ran out to alert people of what he had seen. Before you know it, the place was crowded. People wanted to know what was happening. They wanted to see for themselves what Joseph Bello had just told them. Funny enough, Clifford Orji wasn't in his hideout when all these were happening. But when he returned to the hideout, he saw a mammoth crowd waiting for him. He wanted to escape, but the people there chased and caught him. People started scattering under the bridge and Clifford Orji's conclave to know what was going on. As they were scattering the conclave, they saw a famished and emaciated lady named Awuwa Lawan, who was compressed into a tire space. She was the next to be slaughtered, and Clifford Orji was already using her as a sex slave. It was the crying of this lady that attracted Joseph Bello to order the bridge in the first place. Awuwa Lawal was immediately rushed to the hospital where she slipped into coma and died after all. In no time, the police arrived at the scene and they started scattering the conclave to gather evidence for their investigation. Just there, they saw phalanx of human parts. They saw human skulls, human hands, human legs, and freshly cooked soup with human meat. It was a horrible and gory scene, and the men of the Nigeria Police Force immediately arrested Clifford Orji and took him to the nearby Makinde police station. Of course, Clifford Orji wasn't the only person living under the bridge. Someone else was living there, and that person was Tahiru Aliyu, who also disguised as a madman. Now let's be realistic. There's no way Clifford Orji will be killing people and eating their flesh without Tahiru Aliyu, his next neighbor, knowing what was going on. So the angry mob moved to the part Tahiru Aliyu was living under the bridge and scattered his conclave as well. They discovered a hole that looked like a covert where Clifford Orji and Tahiru Aliyu dumped their victims before they killed and barbecued them. So Tahiru Aliyu was arrested alongside Clifford Orji. Clifford Orji was remanded in Kirikiri prison for 13 years without trial before he died. Before he died in 2012, he sued the Lagos state government for wrongful imprisonment and he sued them for the sum of 1 million naira. 4 months later, he died and the case was dismissed. But there is actually a different angle to this old Clifford Orji story that most people don't know about. Or people know about it, but they don't want to talk about it. When the police were raiding Clifford Orji's conclave, they saw some things that were really disturbing. I think that was one of the reasons why Clifford Orji spent about 13 years in prison without trial. The police found a check of 80,000 naira and a mobile phone in Clifford Orji's conclave. You may think it's not a big deal for a madman to have a mobile phone. I understand. But this was in 1999 when only a very privileged few had mobile phones. During this time, only politicians, high government officials, and really successful traders could afford mobile phones. So, how come Clifford Orji, a madman, had 80,000 naira check and a mobile phone in his conclave? Remember, 80,000 naira in 1999 was a huge sum of money. Definitely, during their investigation, the police would go through Clifford Orji's phone and they would have seen the numbers that were calling Clifford Orji frequently. It's also possible that they would have investigated the check to know who wrote that check in Clifford Orji's name. In fact, during confession, Clifford Orji said, "I'm not alone. I have between 4 and 10 people. They take their own parts and go while I wait for another meat." If all this were true, how come the case was suppressed? Why was Clifford Orji left in